This is the time of year when Canadian students are thinking about what they want to do after they graduate high school. There are more than 4 million students in Canada enrolled in universities or colleges, and the decision to go for either one can be a daunting one. Tiana Edwards helps students adjust to life on campus at Queen's University as the school's Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator, and she's joining us today to talk about some of the things you want to think about when you're choosing a school that is right for you. Tiana, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, it used to be you just went to whatever school your parents told you you should be going to. But what should students and parents be looking for when they're starting out on their search?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider, right? You want to consider what type of life you want to live, what city you want to live in. And that has a lot to do with like your personal preferences. I know personally my parents wanted me to go to where they went to, but it's about knowing when you're leaving if you're ready. If you're ready to take care of yourself, if you know yourself, if you know your self-care routines and your own boundaries, and then what your interests are when you get there. And a lot of that, what we do at the Yellow House Student Center for Equity and Inclusion is do a lot of like referrals to different programs that will actually support students that are on a path that isn't just academic. So a lot of picking your university is actually thinking outside of academics and thinking of like holistically what your lifestyle will be like.
Let's dig into that a little bit. One of the big considerations is where to live, at home, or do you move away to school? What should you consider when you're thinking about this? Cost weighs into it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, cost is a huge factor, right? If you want to stay home and save a ton of money, then absolutely you can do that and still find your independence at an institution that is close to your house. If you feel like you're ready to leave, then it's the things I mentioned. It's knowing yourself and knowing when you're going to be too tired to make sure that you actually get some rest and to not get so wrapped into school that you actually don't have any self-care. So, I mean, I think fiscally, it's good to consider where you're at in terms of savings and if your parents can support you and if you're really ready to take on loans. And then in terms of like your whole self, you want to think about if you're actually ready to leave home and not rely on your parents or guardians to have that extra support.
And that's a big piece of it too, right? Is knowing what kinds of skills you need to be independent and on your own.
Absolutely, which I think obviously all university students have those growing pains, but having a bit of that foundation before you actually leave is going to support you, because when you come to university, there's so many things like time management, thinking of all your classwork, meeting new people, learning your own boundaries, all of that stuff comes up. So having that foundation before you leave. Right now, as students are applying to university, thinking of that here in November and building your own self-care rituals so that next year when you're off to university, you have that down pat and you don't have to be learning that when you're away.
Tiana, you moved from Kingston to go to school in Toronto. How and why did you make that decision?
I was ready to leave. I was very excited to get out of Kingston. And for me, it was about finding that sense of belonging, right? Like I wanted to kind of find more people like me. I live in a very small town. And so when I went to university, I was really excited to kind of immerse myself in the Toronto crowd, to like get on the subway and go downtown and kind of blend in. And a huge thing for me too was once I got there, like joining the dance team and finding things outside of my academics really made my whole experience. Obviously, there were some learning curves in terms of like being responsible for my own laundry and things like that. But for me, I personally felt ready. And I think that students know when they're ready. I also had friends who weren't ready and stayed in Kingston and went to Queen's or went to St. Lawrence. And then you just know when it's time to leave, right? And those folks saved a ton of money. So there's pluses and minuses. I think it's really good to kind of like create a board of pros and cons of all the things you want to consider. But putting yourself first and like your own gut instincts first, I think is really healthy and important, especially as you learn to navigate the world of trusting your gut, right, as we get older.
There are hundreds of thousands of families having this conversation right now. Tiana, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.